Mirror.
The mirror was not supposed to be there. At least that's what Eleanor told herself the moment she stepped into the dim, dust-choked attic of her newly inherited house. The house had been abandoned for years, left to the slow decay of time after her grandmother's death. Yet the mirror stood pristine among the forgotten relics of the past. Its frame was made of dark, polished wood, the edges curling into twisting vines and grotesque faces. It was tall, nearly 7 feet, its surface strangely flawless despite the dust that blanketed everything else. There was something unsettling about it, something that made Eleanor pause as she ran her fingertips along the wood. A cold sensation trickled up her arm. She snatched her hand away, heart pounding. She had never seen this mirror before, not even as a child when she used to explore the house. Her grandmother had been a strict woman, her home filled with old-fashioned furniture and strange rules. Rules Eleanor had always dismissed as the superstitions of an aging mind. Never stare too long into a mirror at night. If you hear whispers, do not respond. Never, under any circumstance, cover the mirror. It must always see. Eleanor shook off the memories, scolding herself for letting childhood fears creep in. She had inherited the house, and it was hers to do with as she pleased. If she wanted to sell the furniture, she would. If she wanted to throw away this eerie, misplaced mirror, she would. And yet, she didn't. Instead, she found herself carrying it downstairs, placing it in her bedroom with an odd sense of reverence, as though the mirror belonged there, as though it had always belonged to her.
The first night.
Eleanor was not prone to nightmares. She had always prided herself on having a rational mind, dismissing fears with the cool logic that had carried her through adulthood. But that night, as she slept in the old house for the first time in years, something in the darkness shifted. The dream began in silence. She stood before the mirror, her reflection staring back at her in the dim glow of an unseen light source. But something was wrong. The air felt heavier pressing against her chest, making it harder to breathe. Her reflection was still, too still. The kind of stillness that did not belong to something living. Then it smiled, a slow, unnatural curl of the lips, stretching wider than it should have. Eleanor gasped, stumbling back, but the reflection did not mimic her movement. Instead, it lifted a hand, pressing its palm flat against the glass. She woke up with a jolt, drenched in sweat. The mirror loomed in the darkness of her bedroom, its surface faintly reflecting the pale light of the moon. Her breath came in shallow gasps as she stared at it, waiting, dreading that the figure inside would move again. Nothing happened. It was just a dream. But even as she told herself this, she could not shake the feeling that something had been watching her while she slept.
The slow descent.
Days passed and Eleanor tried to ignore the mirror. At first, it was easy. She spent her time cleaning the house, sorting through her grandmother's belongings, telling herself that the strange nightmares were merely a result of exhaustion. But small things began to go wrong. She would catch movement in the mirror from the corner of her eye, only to turn and see nothing but her own reflection. She heard whispers at night, soft, almost imperceptible, just on the edge of understanding. And then there were the moments when she would look into the mirror and see herself wrong. Her reflection did not always move when she did. It lagged a fraction of a second too slow, or tilted its head when she had not. Sometimes its expression did not match her own. A flicker of a smirk when she was frowning, a widening of the eyes when she was calm. One evening, as she sat brushing her hair in front of the mirror, she decided to test it. She raised her right hand. The reflection raised its left. A cold shiver ran down her spine. Slowly, her reflection lowered its hand, tilting its head in an unnatural way, as though studying her. Then, without her moving, it lifted its hand and waved. Eleanor screamed. She grabbed a cloth, throwing it over the mirror, her hands shaking. The second the glass was covered, the air seemed to shift, as though a deep breath had been exhaled from within. She backed away, heart pounding, but did not dare remove the cloth. That night, the whispering grew louder, and for the first time, she heard her own voice among them.
The other Eleanor.
Sleep became impossible. The days blurred together in a haze of exhaustion and dread. Eleanor avoided the mirror, but even when she was not looking at it, she felt its presence. The covered frame loomed in the corner of her room, the fabric occasionally shifting as though something inside was pressing against it. Then, one night, she woke up to find the cloth gone. The mirror stood bare, its surface reflecting the dark room, and she was no longer alone. Her reflection was there, but it was not hers. The woman in the glass was pale, her eyes sunken, her lips curved into a knowing smile. Eleanor's breath hitched as she sat up, unable to look away. The reflection did not move. It only watched. Then, in a slow, deliberate motion, it stepped forward, out of sync with Eleanor's own movement. A cold, suffocating dread filled the room. The reflection raised a hand and placed it against the glass, her fingers pale and slender. And then, it pushed. A crack split through the surface of the mirror, spiderwebbing, outward. A deep, resonant whisper filled the air, and Eleanor felt something inside her shift. Her vision blurred. A pull deep and irresistible dragged her forward. She tried to scream, to resist, but the force was too strong. The last thing she saw before the world went dark was her reflection stepping out of the glass, smiling as it took its first breath in the real world.
The hollow reflection.
The next morning, Eleanor woke up. She stood in front of the mirror, adjusting her hair, a satisfied smirk on her lips. Outside, the sun shone through the window. The house was quiet, the air still. And inside the mirror, pressed against the glass, the real Eleanor screamed and clawed, trapped in the darkness, forever unseen.